Welcome to the chilling world of Jangan Pernah Naik, Kalaring ITU, a house with secrets buried deep, a warning that begs to be obeyed, and a mystery waiting to be unraveled. Have you ever felt a place watching you? Heard whispers when no one should be near? Tonight, you will follow Raka Aditya as he steps into a house that refuses to forget the past, where the attic holds a secret that should never be disturbed. Before we begin, tell me, what is the scariest thing you have ever experienced in a house? Have you ever ignored a warning and regretted it? Share your story in the comments below. Your tale might just be the next whisper from the attic. Now, prepare yourself and listen closely because some doors once opened can never be closed again. Rain poured heavily as Raka Aditya parked his car in front of the old house that had long been abandoned. The scent of wet earth and decaying leaves greeted his steps as he walked across the pavement. The house stood tall and weary, its peeling paint and tall windows watching him like tired, aging eyes. The house, left to him by his late foster father, Pak Surya, had officially become his, along with the inheritance papers. A notary had handed him a thin brown envelope. On the front of the envelope, written in faded black ink, was a single sentence: "For Raka, once you've entered the house." Inside, the air was colder than outside. Dampness clung to the walls, and the smell of old wood filled his lungs. The living room light still worked, though it flickered dimly. Raka set down his small suitcase on a dusty sofa and carefully opened the envelope. Inside was a single handwritten letter from Pak Surya. "Raka, if you are reading this, it means I'm no longer here. This house is now yours with everything inside it. But there is one thing you must obey. Never go up to the attic. No matter what happens, do not. Keep the attic key in the bottom drawer of the old cabinet in the study, and let it stay there. This is not a request. It's a warning." Raka read the letter twice. A strange tension stirred in his chest. This didn't sound like the Pak Surya he knew. Logical, stern, never one for superstition or drama. He let out a dry chuckle. What is this? Some kind of horror movie script. But that night, as he prepared to sleep in a bedroom on the second floor, the sound began, faint, like footsteps, then the soft intake of breath, coming from the attic. He stood at the base of the wooden stairs leading upward. The attic door was locked, still, silent, but the air around it felt wrong, as if something was waiting behind it. And then he saw it, something that made his blood run cold. On the third step from the bottom, a single wet footprint, yet he hadn't seen a single soul enter the house since he arrived. Morning came with the skies still gray and dripping. Raka barely slept. The whisper of footsteps from the attic echoed in his head like a memory refusing to fade. He tried to reason it out. Maybe the house had rats, or the old wooden beams were just creaking from the rain. But the footprint on the stairs, that couldn't be explained away so easily. After a quick, tasteless breakfast of instant noodles, Raka made his way to the study. The room was lined with dusty bookshelves and a massive wooden desk, all smelling of mold and mothballs. Against the far wall stood the old cabinet Pak Surya had mentioned in his letter. He crouched and pulled open the bottom drawer. Inside, wrapped in an aged batik cloth, lay a single rusted iron key. It was cold to the touch. He stared at it, feeling an odd resistance in his chest. Something about the key felt wrong. Not just old, not just heavy, but as if it carried something with it. A weight that wasn't physical. He closed the drawer again, perhaps a little too fast. He didn't want to look at it any longer. The rest of the day passed slowly. Raka tried to distract himself by cleaning, unpacking, even checking his emails. But every time he passed the base of the attic stairs, his eyes drifted upward, and every time he felt watched. By nightfall, the house seemed to grow even quieter. Too quiet, like it was holding its breath. At 2:13 a.m., the creaking began again. One step, then another, and then a dragging sound. Raka sat up in bed, heart pounding. He listened, eyes wide in the dark. The sound wasn't coming from the attic. It was coming from the hallway. He slipped out of bed and opened his door just a crack. The hallway was empty, but on the floor, smeared across the wooden boards, was a trail of water, as if something had been dragged across it. He followed it, slow, careful steps, until it stopped, right at the bottom of the attic stairs. And there, resting on the third step again, was a key, the same iron key, the one he had locked away in the drawer. Raka's hands trembled as he picked up the key from the step. The cold iron felt like it pulsed faintly, almost alive. Questions flooded his mind. Why was the key here? Had someone, or something, taken it from the drawer? The attic door stood silent and imposing at the top of the narrow stairs. Its faded would look even older under the pale moonlight that spilled through a cracked window nearby. His breath hitched. He remembered the letter. Do not go up to the attic. The warning echoed louder now, like a desperate plea. Still, curiosity gnawed at him like a persistent itch. He slid the key into the rusty lock. It turned with a creak that seemed to stretch for minutes. The door swung open slowly, revealing a darkness so thick it swallowed the weak light behind him. The air was colder here, heavier. The faint scent of damp wood and something metallic hung in the stillness. Raka took a hesitant step inside. His eyes slowly adjusted. The attic was a narrow room cluttered with forgotten belongings. Old trunks covered in dust, broken furniture, and stacks of yellow papers. At the far corner, a large mirror stood. Its glass cracked like spider webs. Suddenly, a whisper brushed his ear. Raka. He spun around. No one was there. A chill ran down his spine. The whisper came again, softer but more urgent. Get out. Raka's heart thundered. He backed toward the door, but stopped when he noticed a small wooden box resting atop one of the trunks. It was locked, but the lock was broken. Drawn by a mix of fear and fascination, he opened the box. Inside lay a faded photograph of a young woman smiling gently. Written on the back, in shaky handwriting, were the words, "My beloved, do not forget me." Before Raka could process more, a sudden noise behind him, a heavy thud, made him whip around. The door slammed shut on its own. Darkness swallowed the attic once more. The sudden slam of the door echoed like a thunderclap, sending a shiver through Raka's body. The faint light from outside vanished instantly, leaving him trapped in thick darkness. His breath came out in shallow gasps as his eyes strained, trying to pierce the blackness that surrounded him. The cold was biting now, sharper than before. He reached out, fingers brushing against the rough wooden walls, searching desperately for the door handle. But it was as if the darkness itself was pushing him back. Then, from somewhere deep in the shadows, a soft whisper floated through the air. It wasn't a voice, but more like a breath, a sigh, almost pleading. Why did you come? Raka's heart pounded in his chest. His mind screamed to leave, but his body felt frozen. The photograph's face replayed in his mind. The young woman with the gentle smile. Who was she? What had happened in this attic? A sudden cold breeze swept through the room, and the faint sound of footsteps began again. But these were not the slow, tentative steps from before. They were heavy, deliberate, coming closer. Raka swallowed hard. He had to find a way out. Slowly, he reached into his pocket for the iron key, his fingers trembling as they clasped the cold metal. But the key wasn't there. His heart sank. The footsteps stopped. A single word whispered, barely audible. Stay. Panic surged through Raka's veins as he fumbled in the darkness, desperately searching for the missing key. His hands brushed against something rough and splintered, old wooden floorboards. A sudden impulse made him press harder, and to his surprise, one of the boards shifted slightly beneath his fingers. Could this be a hidden compartment? With trembling hands, Raka lifted the loose board, revealing a narrow cavity beneath. Inside lay a small, dust-covered leather-bound journal. He pulled it out, the musty smell of aged paper filling his nostrils. Flipping it open by memory alone, Raka read the faded handwriting. They think I am gone, but my soul remains trapped, bound to this house. The attic holds the truth, secrets no one dares to face. A cold chill ran down his spine. The journal belonged to the young woman in the photograph. Suddenly, a faint scratching sound echoed from above the ceiling, or maybe the floor above the attic. Raka froze. The silence that followed was heavy, oppressive. His mind raced. What truth was hidden here? And what force had kept it buried for so long? with no key and no visible exit. Raka's only choice was to delve deeper into the attic's dark past. He gripped the journal tightly and took a cautious step forward into the shadows. Raka's fingers trembled as he flipped through the fragile pages of the journal. Each line told a story of sorrow, betrayal, and a promise broken long ago. The woman, named Saraswati, had been the previous owner of the house, a distant relative of Paxuria. She wrote of forbidden love and a secret kept locked away in the attic, a secret that, once revealed, had shattered her world and bound her spirit to this place. Suddenly, the room grew colder. The shadows seemed to stretch and twist around him. The faint whispers returned, louder now, almost pleading. "Find the truth, free me." Raka's heart ached with a mix of fear and compassion. He realized the warning in the letter was not just superstition. It was a desperate attempt to keep the past buried, to protect whoever entered from the pain hidden in the attic's dark corners. But now that the door was open, the house demanded answers. A sudden crash from the corner startled him. He turned sharply, and in the faint moonlight he saw a figure, translucent yet unmistakably real, standing near the broken mirror. Saraswati's eyes met his, filled with sorrow and hope. "Help me," she whispered. Raka stood frozen, staring at the ghostly figure of Saraswati. Her presence was both haunting and fragile, like a whisper caught between worlds. The air around him seemed to hum with a heavy silence, broken only by her soft plea. "Help me," she repeated, her voice barely louder than the wind outside. He clenched the journal tightly. The secrets he had uncovered were no longer just words on paper. They were a burden placed upon him, a responsibility he could not ignore. But freeing her meant confronting the darkest parts of the house, the family, and himself. The attic seemed to close in, shadows shifting as if alive. The whispers grew urgent, circling him like a storm. Raka took a deep breath. His eyes locked on the broken mirror, where Saraswati's reflection flickered like a candle flame. With every ounce of courage, he stepped forward. The night held its breath.